Good afternoon, dear friends. You are on the channel of Ruslan Belov. We continue to analyze the situation on the front lines with you in our daily format. So friends, as promised, today we will talk about the situation in the Kursk region. And now, for the first time in a long time, or rather for the first time ever, the most significant advances are happening here, while the main front remains less dynamic. So what's happening here? Let's start with the general figures. As of now, the Armed Forces of Ukraine, AFU, control 349.6 square kilometers in the Kursk region, whereas a month ago they controlled more than 450 square kilometers. We can see how the bridgehead is shrinking before our eyes. I've already explained why this has become possible, but I'll repeat it. Such significant progress has been made possible, first of all, due to the advance of the Russian army into the Sumy region, particularly in the area of the village of Novenka, from where Russian drone operators are now targeting the main supply route of the AFU in the Kursk region. This route runs from Yunakivka to Sudzha. Now, it's a real lottery, whether you'll make it through or not. Actually, it's not even 50-50. There's about an 80% chance that your vehicle will be destroyed. Ukrainian military experts confirm this. Here's a screenshot. They mention that dozens of vehicles have already been hit there. And that's exactly the case. It's a real graveyard of equipment along that road. It took a long time for Russian forces to break through to this route, and it was very difficult, but they eventually succeeded. The results are now visible on the map. The Kursk front of the AFU has begun to collapse, and it's happening quite rapidly. Look, if we take the northern sector of the front, the AFU lost this entire area in less than a week. Literally just a few days. And this is a well-fortified area, over 30 square kilometers of territory and 5 settlements. All 5 of these settlements have been retaken. Let me list them for you. Pogrebki, Orlovka, Marievka, Novaya Sorochina, and Staraya Sorochina. Moreover, video confirmations have been published from Pogrebki, Orlovka, and Novaya Sorochina. And by the way, a video from Novaya Sorochina has also appeared online. You know what's surprising? The houses in this village are intact, undamaged. At least the part that was captured in the video. So once the front line moves further away, and the area is cleared and demined, residents will be able to return to their homes. To their intact homes. This, of course, is heartening. And again, I'll repeat, all it took was to bring the main AFU supply route under fire control, and that's it. For example, this line from Pogrebki to Malaya Lochnia was defended by the AFU for several months, but it collapsed in just a few days. If you think their problems are limited to this area, that's not the case. There are other sectors in the Kursk region where the AFU have started to noticeably weaken. This will ultimately lead to them having to completely withdraw from the Kursk region. Currently, the main defensive point of the AFU in the north is in Malaya Lochnia. This is where the most intense battles are taking place. On the flanks, the encirclement continues to tighten. First, the village of Nikolsky has been taken. Second, from the east, there is confirmed advancement of the Russian army from Ruskoye Porechnoye. Look, the total area that came under control just in the last 24 hours is 3 square kilometers. Plus, as you can see, they have once again approached the village of Kositsa. There have also been reports of Russian troops entering Cherkaskoye Porechnoye. Fierce battles are also taking place there. All this is being done to achieve one very specific goal. Look, they are advancing to link up and completely clear the entire northern territory, including the heavily fortified Malaya Lochnia. This would add another 45 square kilometers of territory, and once this area is cleared, and believe me, it will be cleared, at least within the next couple of weeks, the total control of the AFU in the Kursk region will drop to below 300 square kilometers. In addition to the northern sector, the AFU are also experiencing setbacks on the western front, specifically in the area of Lebedevka. It must be acknowledged that the AFU resisted here for a long time and stubbornly. The battles lasted more than a week, but Russian assault units eventually managed to push them out. As a result, the village is now under the full and undisputed control of the Russian army. And what does this mean? It means that the route from Sverdlikovo to Sudzha is now clear. Previously, the AFU positions in Lebedevka hindered movement along this route. Now, neither the AFU nor their positions are there anymore. Plus, there's also a second route option, from Lebedevka to Kazachia Loknya. Currently, the distance between the villages is only 2.5 kilometers. Although, of course, moving from Lebedevka to Kazachia Loknya is not the most convenient or reasonable decision. But we'll see how it plays out. It's much easier, of course, to simply move along the route from Sverdlikovo towards Sudzha. In any case, there are several options. This is an additional headache for the AFU. They'll have to guess where the Russian forces will ultimately go. Moreover, they can't deploy additional reserves here. That's why they're retreating on all sectors of the Kursk front. Because look, they're also experiencing setbacks in the south. This area isn't marked on the map, but Kurilovka has also come under Russian control and has returned home. There has already been confirmed forward movement of about 1 kilometer from it, which means an advance toward this road, which the AFU uses, albeit less actively, for supplies. In general, any movement in this direction means getting closer to the main route. And soon, there will come a moment when it will be under fire control from both sides. Then, not even a mouse will slip through, let alone any Bradleys, Leopards, or pickup trucks. Additionally, let's not forget about the advance of the Russian army in the Sumy region. For now, it's slow, even passive. Nevertheless, the AFU has lost the village of Zhuravka. And now, from positions in Zhuravka, Russian forces are firing at the rear of the armed forces of Ukraine. In particular, look here, near the village of Belovody, a Ukrainian T-72 tank was destroyed. The distance here is 6.5 kilometers. In general, as I said at the beginning of this report, things are bad for the AFU in the Kursk region. And that's putting it mildly. Ukrainian military experts, like Sterneko and others, are even saying that it's a catastrophe and it's time to wrap things up. And indeed, it seems that everything is coming to an end for them here, and very soon the residents of the Kursk region will be able to start returning to their homes. As for the homes that have been destroyed, the government will undoubtedly rebuild them. On the Sud-Pokrovskaya Duga direction, as of March 7th, the situation remains tense. According to available data, the first push against the defense line was halted, albeit with some losses. In the first 3 days of active operations, AFU units managed to capture a significant part of the settlements of Kotlino and Peshanoye, as well as gain a foothold on the northern outskirts of Shevchenko in the area of Novi Trud and Zelenoye. South of the Solenaya River, the advance was limited to the capture of one street in Uspanovka. In most cases, the initial thrust was followed by a slowdown in the pace of the offensive due to organized defense. The AFU command paid particular attention to attempts to break through in the area of the settlement of Shevchenko. The day before, a fierce head-on clash took place in this area, with significant losses on both sides. Artillery and drones were actively used by both sides. Despite the efforts and partial encirclement of the village from the east, no significant advance was achieved. One of the key problems for both sides remains logistics. AFU drone units are attempting to disrupt supply lines using tactics previously employed against the Sudzha grouping. These actions are having a certain impact on the situation. Without resolving the issue of protecting supply routes from FPV drone attacks, the risk of complicating the situation remains, even despite repelling the initial push. The overall situation remains complex and rapidly evolving. On the Min-Novopavlovsk direction, as of March 7th, the situation is developing as follows. According to available data, the enemy's reserves for holding back the advance in the Konstantinovka area have been exhausted. This raises the question of a possible withdrawal of the remaining garrison from this settlement. The advance toward the outskirts of Alexeyevka from the east and Bogatyr from the southeast creates the preconditions for the escalation of hostilities into a battle for this key stronghold of the enemy in this direction. Holding the corridor toward Konstantinovka, which will also require significant resources, may become an additional burden for the enemy. The situation remains dynamic and requires further analysis. Well, that's all for today on the situation at the front. I'll say goodbye to you for now. I wish you a good final working day. And until tomorrow.